Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. This is the regular meeting of the Garden City Planning Commission. It's Thursday, January 13th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If everyone would stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Would the Secretary take the roll call, please?
Chairperson May.
Here.
Commissioner Steenberg.
Here.
Commissioner Turnbull.
Here.
Commissioner Walls. Commissioner Kalidas.
Here.
Commissioner Mativier.
Here.
Commissioner King.
Here.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any comments or changes? Hearing none, would you take the roll?
Commissioner Kalidas.
Aye.
Commissioner Mativier.
Aye.
Commissioner King.
Aye.
Commissioner Turnbull.
Aye.
Commissioner Steenberg.
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye. Now we need approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of December 9th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the meeting on December 9th, 2021.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any corrections or comments? Hearing none, would you take the roll?
Commissioner King.
Aye.
Commissioner Turnbull.
Aye.
Commissioner Mativier.
Aye.
Commissioner Kalidas.
Aye.
Commissioner Steenberg.
Aye.
Chairperson May.
Aye. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items? These are items that are not on tonight's agenda. Anyone wishes to comment on anything? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the first business item. This is PPL 21-0031, request for site plan approval to construct a new commercial building at 29650 Ford Road in the C3 General Business District. Start us off, Mr. Ortega, would you present your report?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. As summarized, we are here tonight to discuss the proposal of a new construction of a new building at 2760 Ford. So this is the northeast corner of Ford Road in Carwell. So a block east of the Town and Country hardware store. The site itself is 21,100 square feet in area. And there's currently about 1,100 square foot single-use building located on the site. The applicant is proposing to demolish the building and construct a brand new 9,237 square foot commercial building. The proposal is to construct a leasable tenant space comprised of up to possibly 8 leasable units ranging in size from 1,077 square feet to 1,135 square feet. And since this is in a C3 district, these would be considered leasable spaces or just white box spaces initially. Once they're leased out, the applicants would have to, businesses would have to come and obtain a certificate of occupancy. And as long as they're listed as a permitted use in the C3, or if they obtain special use in C3, they would be allowed to occupy the building. And that's C3 is our most varied list of uses in commercial, about the majority of all our uses. But it's generally would be retail uses, service uses, that sort of thing. And then if there were any of them proposed to be any type of restaurant, the site would have to be evaluated for each applicant to make sure that the parking is able to accommodate the proposed use. So as proposed, this will be just leasable tenant space initially. The building itself in the C3 district has a 0 front setback requirement, 0 sides when the sides are comprised of fire-rated walls, and 0 rear yard setback. So as proposed, the building is going to be fronting directly on the Ford Road right-of-way line and on the east and west side lot lines. So the only issue there is we just have to confirm that that eastern wall will be a fire-rated wall. Provided it's fire-rated, then that can be 0 We would just ask that the applicant provide us with the color and a little more detail on the proposed material of the sign. Moving on to parking, as mentioned, this is going to be a combination of retail and service uses. The use as proposed would be meet our definition for a shopping center. So therefore, the requirement is one parking space for 250 square feet of leasable, usable area. So they require a minimum of 30 parking spaces, and they are providing a minimum of 30 parking spaces. So the applicant actually is meeting the minimum requirement for parking. In addition, those parking spaces are the correct dimensions in terms of length and width, and they are providing the required amount of barrier-free or handicap parking spaces. So all the parking as proposed is in compliance. With regards to landscaping, there wasn't a separate landscape plan. The landscape details were provided. They are proposing street trees along Ford Road. They are proposing some trees and shrubs along Cardwell, and then they are having some light green space, smaller green space area along that rear or northern lot line.
Does the proposed landscaping plan comply with our requirements in the code?
In terms of some of the requirements, the ordinance does allow you, for example, to permit the required front yard landscaping to be located in the front in the road right of way. It is something that we've done before. Excuse me. It is something that we've done before to allow for the landscaping required in the front to be in the right of way. So as proposed, I think it's it would meet our ordinance requirement for the front yard landscaping. And I do believe its location in the right of way would be appropriate because it will create a nice continuous streetscape. The building to the east also has an attractive streetscape that meets our ordinance, and so this one would be compliant. The side lot line parking, I believe, does meet the parking requirement, landscaping requirements. However, the Plan Commission does have its discretion to request modifications to these standards to allow, for example, in the Cardwell side, they're technically supposed to be a 10-foot side yard, 10-foot green space along the entire frontage of Cardwell. As proposed, the building would go right to the property line, and they're proposing more landscaping to the rear of the building. That's something that could be allowed if you deemed that was appropriate. However, if you want them to fully comply with the ordinance requirement, technically the ordinance would require that 10-foot green space along the entire line of Cardwell, and that would require the building to be shifted or shortened by 10 feet.
Would that take away parking?
No, because the amount of green space on Cardwell is what's required and is greater, it's equal to 10 feet. So it would be appropriate to do that on
Or
Cardwell.
they want to go right to a zero lot line
For
there?
the building itself, yes.
Yeah, to allow that would require them to lose a whole tenant space, I would say.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It would definitely reduce the square footage, at least the square footage by 10 feet by whatever the depth of the building is. Yes.
What about some shrubbery or potential ground cover in the area between the right-of-way and the sidewalk?
On the side or in the front?
On the Caldwell side?
That's what normally is required. It's actually required to be a 10-foot space between the property line or the edge of the sidewalk on Cardwell and the edge of the building. It actually should be 10 feet. But they're proposing the building to go all the way to the side.
What I was thinking is the other side of the sidewalk, westerly.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Actually, that would be something that would be, similar to Ford Road, then allowing the landscaping in the Cardwell right on the other side of the sidewalk.
I know we haven't usually done it that way, but
How,
No, that's something that could work.
yeah, do we know how wide that space is?
I can find out in a moment.
well, if they go right to the lot line, then,
It's right here.
yeah.
I don't, I don't see where anywhere where that's dimensioned.
The two, pavilions are, what's it, 12 inch?
Yeah, they're talking about the water mains and sewers. Yeah. It's just this space from here to here, we're talking about between the sidewalk and the street.
And as shown on the plans, it is what's on the aerial photo, so it's a smaller, wood tapered green space area. Based on the width of the sidewalk itself, I would say that's 5 feet or less. 5 feet in width at the northern end of the southern property, and it tapers down to be like 3 foot in width at Ford Road.
It's enough where we get some plantings in there to have a green belt other than grass and or weeds.
Yeah. So that is an option that the ordinance does not need to consider. And then moving on to page 3 of the letter, they are required to have a residential screen wall. One is existing, and that is supposed to remain. That screen wall is in compliance with the ordinance. The dumpster enclosure is proposed on the site, and the details are in compliance with the ordinance.
I thought our dumpster enclosures were required to be masonry.
They are in the, masonry is preferred.
According to, unless my copy of the ordinance is old, it says masonry construction.
Yes, but then there's a second paragraph after that paragraph that does allow for the possibility of using composite materials, because it's not something we normally do, but it is something that has been utilized in the past. Let's see where it specifically says. Because under paragraph exemption, may be modified away upon determination of the location, screening, or removal of the panel. Yeah, so paragraph F in that ordinance, in that subsection, does allow for waiver or modifications. There have been minimal amount of times where we have allowed the use of composite materials, so composite type hardy board. Not hardy board product, but composite decking type material. But masonry would be the first and primary standard.
Since the one right next to it is masonry, I would think that would be more appropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fred, I believe that was for the composite. I thought we only allowed for the front gates.
For the gates, yeah.
We're still requiring the
Put
3
slats
walls.
in the, if they wanted chain link rather than metal, yeah.
We talked about that numerous times, but I think we always fell back on
Yeah,
concrete walls.
I think the actual three-sided enclosure, we always said should be masonry.
Masonry, and then with the bollards in the
And it
front.
should also match, yeah, with the bollards in the front to protect it.
Right.
And
Then with the
it should
fence.
match the finish on the building.
No, you're correct. That actually is what my apologies. When I looked at this, these cross-section details, these kind of remind me of the masonry panels that we've been considering sometimes for screening.
Yeah.
But it does actually say tracks. That's my opinion. That actually should be a masonry product. So the alternative would be a masonry constructed wall with a veneer of a brick or something that matches the building, or a possibility of, like you mentioned, a precast concrete panel that type of decorative sign. I think that was the other elevation that waiver exemption. And then you are correct that the composite is only available for the gate.
In lieu of a metal gate
In lieu of that.
or a chain link with the lacing in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is correct. regarding the sidewalk, there's sidewalk proposed in front of the building on Fort Road. Sidewalk exists on Cardwell. The one issue is that due to the location of this building in relation to the building to the east, on the site plan, the sidewalks on Fort Road don't line up. So there would have to be some method to have a continuous connection from the proposed sidewalk to the existing. That would either involve placing an additional connection in the right of way in front of the east building, so that it could basically have a 90-degree turn to connect, or the alternative would be to modify the building footprint to allow some kind of connection to that sidewalk that exists slightly to the north of that proposed.
Right now, there's a continuous sidewalk running from Cardwell all the way to Belton.
Correct.
Is that going to be changed? According to their last sheet on the plan, that continuous sidewalk is still there.
That's true. That's true. I was looking at the sidewalk as directly in front of the building elevation. And looking for that to connect to the buildings, the sidewalk in front of the other building to connect that. But I guess, given that there's another existing sidewalk, if you don't feel it's necessary.
Now, it may be necessary to replace it because it does look like it's in kind of rough shape.
Yeah.
But if it was in the same location, it would, yeah, it would be a continuous path, a straight line. So they both have short walks running from that sidewalk up to the building. So
Yeah, so.
we can ask the applicant about that, but I don't think that's a problem.
No, but I was just thinking of if anyone wanted to walk from one to the other, they could walk across there. Adjacent to the.
There's no connection right against the building.
Yeah, right against the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. because
There's a short walk out to the sidewalk from the front of the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like a short, whatever that distance is, like 3 or 5 feet? Probably, it looks like it's just 5 feet.
I didn't make it over to the site, but the conversation about the sidewalk, we should note in the final plan that the sidewalks be compliant with our current standard, that we not have heaving or significant cracking and separation in the final. I haven't seen what condition they're in, but
Yeah, I didn't examine it closely, but it looked a little rough.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it may just be a matter of picking and choosing, replacing a flag here and there. It may need nothing.
Yes. And then finally, the site does have a lighting plan as proposed. The fixtures are fully shielded, directly downward, and the light levels are appropriate for the use because there's no light projection into any residential property adjacent to the wall. And then finally,
On that same note, we ran into that a number of times in the last year. Is that on our checklist
in terms of
to have a
light level,
light level or light plan shown with
Well, they did provide a photometric plan.
photometric things? Couldn't
Yeah.
think of it.
it is required as part of the ordinance and the application, like an application for a site plan, we are supposed to provide.
Yeah,
Because we want to make sure that none of the light levels adjacent to the residential property line are excessive or exceed 0. Definitely should be 0 at the lot line.
That can be done with a lot of different lights, right?
Absolutely.
In the past, when we've been provided information, they provide the cut sheet. And we see a similar light in many instances.
But nowadays with these architectural programs, they have the light levels, the ability to create a photometric plan, because they can enter the details of a particular fixture, the mounting height and position, and then it can produce these composite light level calculations.
CAD CAM is a wonderful thing.
So as you can see on page PH01, there's the zeros all across that northern lot line, which is what is required to make sure there's no impact on the adjacent residents.
So we don't,
But similarly, also, you have to make sure that there's enough light in parking lots for people to operate safely.
Yeah,
and we don't necessarily have to have a cut sheet of the light because we have a photometric.
Well, I prefer running with that sheet because I want to make sure all the lights are fully shielded and directed downward. Because while the light levels are one aspect, when a light angles or is allowed to be angled, that causes glare and shading not only into the residents, but also into vehicle traffic and into areas that don't need it, and creates light pollution, and it's not. It's not.
Gotcha.
And not in compliance with the ordinance. Most importantly, it's not in compliance with the ordinance. Finally, with regards to other reviews, I did forward this plan to the fire marshal and to the city engineer. Something that I think that needs to be done, so we'll be doing that from now on, so that you can have comments from those other professionals with this preliminary site plan. They won't be doing a full-blown review, but they're asked to provide any comments that might impact the site layout and other glaring issues. So, for example, the fire marshal provided comments mainly focus on the Knox box and the fact that he says he does not have concerns with this proposed plan. And then the engineer has provided preliminary comments about the site itself. But I think the most important thing is that he hasn't indicated at all that the stormwater system is going to require some drastic change that would alter the site configuration. That's something that I communicated with him and want to make sure occurs now. That we can make sure that the proposed stormwater is such that it'll work, and it won't, the applicant won't have to come back and say, oh, I have to change this thing now I have to do a detention pond instead, or do something else that will alter something that you've approved, such as the number of parking spaces, the building location, other things in the zoning permits. So this helps the applicant too, because they can have assurances that this configuration will work. But as noted on the engineer's letter, in the final comments, there's some specific details that are going to have to be provided with regards to specific engineered detail requirements.
And do you see that changing? Because currently it's a single retail space, correct? And it's going to go to 8 retails or 8 potential leasees. So do you
but the
see-
parking area probably will be reduced with the new plan. The paved area of that lot.
Of the current lot, actually, well, only because the paved area also includes area to the east of the existing building.
Yeah,
So on the proposed site plan, that's why on the proposed site plan, those 30 spaces to the rear will have enough service for retail and service uses in that.
but I'm saying though, that could possibly or maybe not affect the detention of the storage
Total permeable square foot.
for the rainwater.
Well, that's why I wanted the engineer to take a look at it, and in his review letter, he hasn't indicated.
Doesn't that have to be reviewed and approved by the county?
Yes, it will, and it will also have to be approved by the.
So that should be a condition of our approval that the county also approves it.
Yes, absolutely. So, because they, and as any new construction, they have to provide the building department with the appropriate permits. For example, if this was having a curb cut off of Ford Road, we would require a permit from MDOT. Fortunately, they're actually proposing a closure of an existing Ford Road curb cut, and MDOT's going to love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, and so then the only curb cut is they're going to utilize an existing one off Cardwell, which is a local street. So in that instance, they won't need an MDOT permit, but they will need a Wayne County permit before they can begin construction. And the engineer has noted, this is his preliminary review. The engineer is going to require a full, detailed engineering review, and that'll come with construction documents. The construction documents for the building and final engineered documents for the site to make sure that all those calculations meet county requirements, and then they'll be submitted to the county, and the county will approve those as well.
So one of the contingencies you're asking for if we approve this is it would be contingent on our engineering review approval
Correct.
as well as permits from the county. Okay.
And as part of that same review, they will look at the potential intensity of the drain usage for 8 versus 1.
Absolutely, they'll
Yeah.
utilize everything they need
Yeah,
in terms of hard surface and lot coverage, and then the volumes that will be created during those storm events. And engineers will calculate everything to make sure the volume is appropriate. And so I believe that it is just as in other communities and other requirements that the rate of water flow out of the site cannot be any greater than the agricultural rate, the normal runoff rate. So that it will be calculated to hold enough volume, so that way it will not cause any flooding adjacent downstream from the system.
right.
And so with that, with these issues that have been raised, we would actually recommend granting site plan approval contingent upon any revised elevations to indicate the color and size of the proposed materials, the blocks. A revised landscape plan that includes our normal location, species, quantity, and size details for all landscape materials, and that plan being in compliance with any modifications that you allow for with regards to the landscaping.
I'll be curious to find out what type of concrete block that they have in mind, if they're looking at a split face or if there's another type of what we call cinder block. They're not cinders anymore, but
I'm sure the
It is
applicant
made-
can tell us those details
made to mimic brick.
and provide some documentation along with their final approval.
So as I mentioned, we do recommend we grant site plan approval contingent on those issues and also on final engineering approval and submittal of the appropriate permits.
Okay, thank you. Next, would the applicant like to come forward and make their presentation?
Hello, good evening.
Would you introduce yourself and sign in sheet, please?
Fantastic. My name is Abbas Amar, and I'm one of the owners of the current proposal for the strip mall. This is my brother Talib and Paul Tuma, the builder for
Glad
the
to meet you,
project.
gentlemen.
Pardon?
I said I'm glad to meet you, gentlemen.
Pleasure is all ours. Well, we've met before, but yeah,
Yeah.
pleasure is all ours.
I recognize it.
So real quick, just to touch on the few questions that were raised regarding the sidewalk. So there is an actual existing sidewalk that currently runs from the west to the east. That 90-degree angle that Mario mentioned is actually just an additional piece, so basically a dump off from the sidewalk towards our plaza. There is one in the center as well. That way it kind of makes the walkway more accessible to people coming down from the west or east to west.
So you would have a secondary sidewalk right up against the building
So,
for
yeah,
access to all of the storefronts?
Exactly, yeah. And then there is the current sidewalk is there. That's not going to be moved. Obviously, that would be updated or replaced depending on the deterioration of it currently. I haven't personally walked on that sidewalk, but I would assume we'd want it all the same. So, it makes the building look aesthetically pleasing. Regarding the dumpster in the back, I was under the assumption that it was already going to be masonry product. so to match the building. He didn't notate, he put a screen mesh, but I believe that's just for the gate in the front. But the actual enclosure, I was under assumption it would be the same as the building.
Well, as I read the plans, I saw a note talking about Trex for the enclosure.
Okay.
So,
We'll get some clarification on that, but when I initially spoke to him, and he's the builder as well, Paul, and it's normal process.
Same block that we use on the.
Yeah, it would make no sense to purchase some more materials to save a few bucks. You know, overall, this really doesn't make sense. We normally just make it the same material that the building's made out of.
And the block we're using is a polished block.
So it won't be porous.
It's
It
not,
won't be porous like,
Does it resemble like a limestone?
It is, yeah, it's made to mimic limestone, yeah.
but it's double the money and everything.
Yeah, it's actually more expensive and it's mimicking it, that's the funny thing. Yeah, it's meant to not crack, bend with, you know, certain.
stuff.
Yeah.
now, is that for the lighter portion on
The
the
lighter
elevation or the darker?
The
Yes.
lighter and the dark. They have
Both of them,
So
the
many different colors, and we will bring it up to Mario and show it to him. when we're
Okay.
Ready to,
And,
Now, when we look at your elevations here, it looks like a darker elevation is a standard brick. And I can see what you're talking about with the,
Actually, we're using a 12-inch block, okay, by 16 by 8, okay? And on the lighter, let me see,
that's the same size as center block.
the darker one is gonna be like a 4-inch block of the same material.
Gotcha.
And
Smooth polish?
it's gonna give it a nice look, you know, the breaking up
smooth and
the
polished, yes.
the taller block with the shorter block for the main building part.
So it's kind of like a longer subway house.
Yeah, but they're all like 16-inch,
I was trying to get those dimensions, but I didn't want to.
yeah,
I was hoping it was a 4-inch.
right, it's 4-inch, but they're 12-inch block.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna have any beams in the center of the building, so we're gonna use trusses that are gonna go all the way across. That's why we're using a 12-inch block on the,
So that's almost like a commercial brick size,
yes,
commercial brick.
yes, but it doesn't look like your normal block. no.
And it'll be dark like your
It'll be
elevation?
dark, there'll be light parts, and it'll,
So we're actually, you know, spending a little more money on the facade of the building because we've been approached by a few national tenants, and this is what they require.
Sure.
So, you know, we actually have 3 really big national tenants that are interested in the site.
Excellent.
And that's due to the fact of the money that we're spending on the outside of the building. One of them being just a Pizza Hut, you know, but we have a few other really nice stuff that's going to go in there, so hopefully.
Great.
that's good.
The other thing, I'm not sure how the rest feel. I'd like to see some landscaping on that west elevation
So,
in the area between the street and the sidewalk.
on Caldwell?
On Caldwell.
So you brought up, and then Mario also brought up the fact of us building to the 0 point of the sidewalk, and then the other side of the sidewalk on Caldwell. We could definitely do some planters or something. Obviously, it would have to be within the zoning guidelines. That is not an issue at all.
Yeah, I would like to see you look at that in respect that it doesn't have to be posies and stuff. It could be shrubs and something. But if it's going to require watering to stay alive, then I'd like to see an underground system.
Yeah, we could.
Because we know what a pain in the butt it is to drag out hoses and sprinklers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Right by
lot
the
of different.
sidewalk, that would.
There's a lot of different, I mean, we can go with those evergreens, we can do with the shrubbery wise, but that shouldn't be an issue, that's easy.
We want our building to look top-notch.
Yeah.
So whatever it requires, we're
We're willing to.
willing to work.
Okay, one issue that the engineers brought up was the dumpster location in the parking lot. Since it's at the far end of the parking lot, the truck would have to back up the entire length of the parking lot after they pick up the dumpster.
Well, we mimicked the building adjacent to us. As you can see, their dumpster, we actually notated it in the plans.
Yeah.
Their dumpster is also at the end of their building, just facing the building, versus ours would be facing the screen wall. So we assumed, our engineer and the architect are out with COVID. They'd probably be able to answer that question better, but we just basically mimicked what the building was doing next door.
And while we do admit that that's not the preferred situation to require a truck to back out, the issue here that seems somewhat more acceptable is the fact that it's backing out onto a residential street that has minimal traffic volume. We wouldn't allow this to back up onto Ford Road or Middle Belt or Merriman. But
That's true, but I think what they were referring to was cars and pedestrians in the parking lot itself.
Well, I can answer that. We schedule, just like most of the businesses on Ford Road, with the tight space that we do have available to us, we do schedule 6 to 7 a.m. pickups, which wouldn't be in line with any building hours of operation.
So the pedestrian traffic wouldn't be an issue then?
It would be absolute zero, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's
And one other thing I noticed, in that same area where the dumpster is, the screen wall juts out about 6 feet into your property and goes over to the east. And on most of your plans here, it shows the screen wall being straight across to the property line. Were you planning on rebuilding that portion of the screen wall?
Where it intrudes outwards?
Yeah.
I would assume so according to these plans, yes. That would be my assumption. I actually didn't even notice that. It doesn't have any.
Because where you show the dumpster, it's flush.
Yeah.
But in some other views, and I'm not sure which one, it's back this way. I try to find the page that it's on. No, well, I don't want to show the dumpster, I want to show the wall. The front page? Okay, flip it over.
Yeah, I know. But,
It shows it on the, light blue highlight and
Okay, if you look at that aerial photograph on the top of the front page, it shows the wall inside of the red property line.
in the northeast corner.
It might be hard to see on your small drawing, but if you glance at this
Yeah,
one,
you're talking about how the wall comes out this way?
Yeah,
yeah,
And then like boxes out?
yeah.
Yeah, and you're asking us to do what again?
Well, I'm just asking if your proposal is to rebuild that section of the wall to make it straight across to the property line.
Well, if that's where our property line is, that's what we do.
yeah,
That's exactly what we do.
Oh,
If
so
our
you-
property line
Because
he incorporated,
it would interfere with where you're putting the dumpster
I
otherwise.
do think that is our property line. We will build out that wall flush so we can have the dumpster enclosure. Okay, good. To be able
And
to
you'd be building it out with the same material that is the current wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
can you see that
I
good
know
on
exactly
yours?
what you're talking about. It's that little bump out.
Yeah, it looks like it comes out about 4 or 5 feet, and goes over about 6.
If our property line aligns flush with the original wall, then we will rebuild that side with the same material
So-
and do the enclosure.
Oh, if it does, you don't know.
can I say something?
Yeah.
So actually, that enclosure wall that protrudes out, it's about 4 feet in width.
Okay.
Right here on the drawings, he has a shrubbery or whatnot. That's including a 3 feet off the wall and then another 18 feet for the actual existing parking spots. So we have a total of 21 feet available there.
Yeah, well, actually, that's where your dumpster is being placed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which a normal dumpster is 10 by 10, I believe. Or,
10 by 10.
so, you know, there's about 11 feet extra there. I think it was just a misplacement, but we can get that resolved and cleared up.
Well, it's, what we're referring to is not part of your drawing necessarily, it's part of the physical aerial photograph of that area. So there is a wall there,
There is, and it's protruding out 4 feet.
but it's gonna go away, or it's staying.
I don't want to give a
We don't
definite
know.
answer.
Okay.
I was a little concerned if there were utilities behind that required it to be jutted out like that.
Like a transformer.
Actually, the buildings that are east of us, their property line goes about 4 feet towards the back.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Our property comes in a little bit, about 4 feet. And that's where that wall, because their wall is all the way to Inkster Road coming in, and it's about 4 feet out. You know?
Yeah, it's
compared
So you're
to-
saying that's
and
where
then
you're
it comes
saying
in,
that's your
and then-
property line there?
Pardon me?
Is that where your property line is?
Yes, I
Where
believe
it
so.
comes in?
I believe so.
So you would have to leave it there then?
Yes.
So that won't interfere with your dumpster placement?
No, that's why I was saying
No,
that
that's why the dumpster's in.
between the parking space, the footage of the parking space, and the 4-foot intrusion, that we're already leaving that, the railings and whatnot off of the screen wall. With that, we have a total of 21 feet, so I think he just didn't incorporate that intrusion in there.
Just, he didn't make a note of it on the
Yeah,
drawing.
I think that's all it is. I
What
think
is
it's
the
just
depth of the
clerical error.
green space?
Pardon?
What is the depth of the green space that parallels the screen wall?
With the screen wall, I think 4 feet.
No, the depth of the green space.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look.
4 feet?
4 feet?
It's 4 feet. Yeah.
Yep.
It's exactly the
4.7
size of the width of that wall.
4.7 inches.
Okay.
So that's gonna absorb that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was just a clerical
That's why your
error.
dumpster enclosure,
It's pushed up.
the back corner of
we're gonna have
it's
to leave it
even
there.
with that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's even with the parking
Because,
space.
you know, we're looking at it one way
Yeah.
The aerial.
on a
view-
poor aerial photograph, but it does show it, and then differently on the drawing.
I think it was just an oversight, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we would need a revised plan that confirms the location of where the wall either is or will be, and then also confirms that the dumpster can fit in the location.
Yeah.
I do believe that based on the amount of area available, that they should be able to fit the dumpster. But you're
Yeah,
right, it does need to be shown.
It appears,
Well, yeah, again, this is a preliminary.
Exactly.
This is preliminary. I mean, all that will be.
on your sheet that's titled Boundary and Topographic Survey, it shows that bump out
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what, we did incorporate it in one aspect, but in his drawings, it was just a clerical
No, it doesn't
error.
go there.
And just
Yeah.
wasn't included.
It just goes about here.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the east wall, next to Garden City Collision, how much space is between the two walls going to be?
Garden City Collision?
There's no Garden City Collision there.
Or the building next to it, the
That's
east
the
wall.
staffing company.
Yeah.
And what was the question again?
How much space is going to be between the two walls?
I don't think any
There's no-
space, because it's a fire safety wall. That wall would have to be a fire safety wall.
Okay.
And we would need that as a condition, they note that it will be constructed to those higher standards.
Okay.
Yeah, the,
Zero.
All right.
yeah, zero clearance, but the fire marshal has to determine what the actual fire rating for that wall has to be.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
All right, was there anything else you wanted to,
No, sure.
okay. Well, thank you. We'll continue discussing it, and if you'll have a seat, we'll
All right, sure. Thank you, sir.
make a decision. All right. Next is allowing the commission to discuss the application. So, Diane, do you have any thing you'd like to discuss about it?
Nope, I'm good.
Mike?
We have the Hennessy letter, which needs to be addressed, and added to that, we want a notation in our final approval someplace that says the existing sidewalks will be brought up to an acceptable current standard, if they're not already there. As I say, I didn't make it over there, but we would want that added to the, possibly the Hennessy portion of it. And then we need further description on the dumpster enclosure to indicate that it is 3 masonry walls with one of our acceptable methods for the front gates being metal or laced fencing. And then we need the lighting cut sheet.
How big are
The one for the actual receptacles, light receptacles. Didn't you say?
No, the lighting was.
Okay, the lighting was good. And the landscaping between the sidewalk and the street on Caldwell. I'd like to see something in there, and whatever that something happens to be, some kind of a green. If it requires water to live, then I'd like to see a sprinkler system installed there. And other than that, it looks good. It looks like it's going to be a gorgeous building.
Frank? Yeah.
I have nothing else.
Randy?
Nothing.
Eric?
I think just that we should include that the engineering notes for the parking lot drainage, and that we need to make sure that we got the county on board for the curb cut. Other than that, I think that just needs to be listed as things to do.
Okay. Well, there's several contingencies that have to be taken care of.
That looks great.
Pardon me?
It looks very nice.
Yes, it does. I agree. Well, I think, and you've already indicated that you can handle the contingencies administratively if we approve tonight? Okay. Yeah.
They'll be required to submit a site plan with all your revisions on the site plan at the same time that they submit the building permit. And so we'll have an approved site plan, and we'll have a stamp and seal, so that way that site plan with all your concerns are on that side.
So it can be signed and recorded.
Yes.
Okay. Is everyone satisfied with the block and the description and the colors, or do we need more detailed information about that included with the revised site plan? Mario?
I do think a note on the revised site plan should say that they're going to be utilizing a polished block, and then the size will be 12 by 16 by 4 for the principal wall.
Yeah.
And I think that would be sufficient. And then they will be just providing a sample of the color samples prior to the construction.
One question to ask. The color samples that you would be providing, is the colors that we see on our paperwork fairly representative?
It's
The light color is sort of like a cement color, but smooth.
For the most part, it is.
Ink will do so much, you know, but the actual.
I mean, we're not going to end up with purple and orange.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, our plan was to model sort of like Birmingham's, old
The color,
architecture meets modern. I mean, that's really the.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're modeling our building close to those style of buildings that you see more in the downtown district.
Okay, very good. Well, I would like to see a motion to approve with several contingencies. We need revised elevations that include an approved fire rating for the east wall, along with color samples of the materials and full descriptions of the block, a landscape plan to include some landscaping along the Cardwell area between the sidewalk and the street. I think the
ADA, all the stuff on the Hennessy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need, in addition to the other stuff on the Hennessy report, we need them to review the condition of the sidewalk to see if any improvements need to be made in that area. The entire Hennessy report needs to be included. The dumpster enclosure needs to be masonry and included in the plans. And I believe that's about it, if someone cares to make a motion.
The only one other one I captured was the
Yeah.
property line, just validating where that knockout.
Yeah, we need correction on the plans to show the bump out on the rear wall, and if that's going to be straightened or if it's going to remain, we need to see that on the plans.
And we should see if Brian's captured all this.
Yep, so what I kind of put it together, tied it into Mario's notes on there.
Okay.
So your motion would be, contingent upon, and A would be the revised elevations that include the fire rating for the east side wall and the color of the materials, and a note saying there's going to be a 12 by 16 by 4 block of polished block, on the revised site plan note for that.
Two types of block. The one's two dimensions.
All right. And then for the second part, a landscape plan that's in compliance with ordinance standards or with any cited planning commission modifications, including the location, quantity, species type, and size of all landscaping materials, including installation details, addressing the landscaping along Cardwell. And Commissioner Steenberg would like, if it needs water, an underground, irrigation system.
Yeah.
Revisions to the Ford Road sidewalk for vertical and horizontal connection on the east sidewalk. And then we have any conditions as required by the city fire marshal and city engineer, including Hennessy Engineering notes in their letter. I'll have to get the date of the letter. Dated January 7th, 2022. Including a sidewalk that will be brought up to code if not already in compliance.
Okay, one other thing would be county approval of the detention system, water detention system.
And
then the other thing I have is the dumpster enclosure notation, that it would be a masonry, not the Trex.
Right.
one other, the knockbox
Yes.
from the fire marshal.
Yes, that was included in the fire marshal's notes,
Yeah.
but the knockbox also should be mentioned.
All right, anything else?
I don't think so. Somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to include all the items we just spoke of that Brian has written down, and where necessary, to have administrative approval by Mario. So your point of contact will be Mario for the various things if we approve tonight.
Is
Second.
and support. Any discussion on the motion? Just take the roll, please.
Commissioner Steenberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Aye.
Commissioner King?
Aye.
Commissioner Mativier?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalidas?
Aye.
Chairperson May?
Aye. All right, your proposal is approved with those conditions. You can talk to Mario about what comes next.
Fantastic, thank you.
Look forward to seeing your new building.
Looks like it's gonna be a beauty. Good
Yeah,
luck.
definitely. You know, we have a few national tenants, so we're excited.
That's a good start, yeah.
One final thing, when do you think you'll be able to break ground?
As soon as possible.
March, I would say. March, April.
And what do you figure your construction time frame?
I'm gonna hold it to whatever he says.
Probably a 4 to 6 month period.
Will you do demolition in the cold weather to?
Yeah, that we can do, and then bring take out all the footings and stuff and bring it to virgin ground, so.
It's
Excellent.
all gonna be new, I mean, from start to finish, so hopefully, God willing.
Sounds excellent.
Thank you
Looks
so much.
very nice.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much, we appreciate it.
Y'all,
Okay.
wonderful evening.
Have a good day.
Next item, zoning ordinance amendments. Public hearing on proposed amendment language regarding the elimination of O1 Office District, the creation of the mixed-use overlay district, revisions to the Cigar Lounge and Hookah Club standards, and Therapeutic massage standards, and Awning and Canopy standards. Well, we need to make sure that the ordinance changes as presented are what we agreed on, and then we can go ahead and establish a date for a
Public hearing.
public hearing. Oh, this is the public hearing. I'm sorry. We've already established the public hearing. We don't have anybody here for the public hearing.
Technically, we have to open and close it.
Yes, I understand. But start out with the presentation of the consultant's report.
These amendments have been revised with the last comments you provided. And as we review them, the first amendment does eliminate all reference to the O1 office district throughout the ordinance. The second amendment creates a mixed-use overlay, which would give, it's a permissive ordinance that the current property owners would have the option to create residences on their second floor if they so choose, in certain uses. It has been noted that those more automobile-oriented uses would not have that option, mainly because we want to make sure that any residents that are created are compatible with those types of uses. So things like the automobile vehicle sales, automobile repair filling stations, the automobile rental establishments, car washes, drive-ins, fast food restaurants, and the regulated uses would not be allowed to do that. And then we go over, and then that includes some design standards that are comparable to other residential design standards we have to make sure that the site, once again, functions appropriately as it can, and that it can accommodate these additional residences. I think that's going to be key because we want to make sure that the sites can accommodate it, and these ordinances would require the applicants to provide the amenities that we need to make sure that they can function. Third amendment goes through our ordinance and makes it in greater compliance and conformity with the state statute with regards to the smoking exemptions. Because what happens is the applicants, property owners go to the state and get an exemption. There's two kinds, and this just separates those into the two different kinds. One is just cigar lounge, and then one is for all types of smoking establishments, including the hookah clubs. And so the hookah clubs were listed as with their specific requirements. And we included things such as cigar lounges will have their setback requirements to be a minimum of 110,000 feet from another cigar lounge. That's another aspect that you ordinance is succinct and compliance with the state law with regards to therapeutic massage, because there's two different types, and makes sure that those establishments that are listed as permitted uses in the C3 would be, and in other districts, would have only be done by licensed professionals, whereas the other services are regulated use. And then finally, the Fifth Amendment regarding to awnings and canopies in the downtown. It's just a means of combining the language, make it a little bit more succinct, because there's no real need to separate out these two different, awning and canopy. It was the same thing, because it's just something that's it's either protect pedestrians over either along a sidewalk or at a building entrance, or protect or provide shade over a window. It's all the same. Yeah. It's all the same. There's no need to have the extra language. But then we also added some additional language to allow for a business that they so choose to put another, technically the way the term is defined is a porte cochere. So that way a vehicle, if it wanted to pull up adjacent to a building and either be serviced by a drive-through window or allow someone to exit the vehicle into the building, they would be protected from the elements by the rather than calling it a canopy or an awning, rather than muddle the waters, really fancy and call it a porte cochere.
Sounds like a carport to me, but
Yeah,
I don't speak French, so.
maybe we probably
So it
should.
translates that way.
Yeah, well, maybe we should just call it. But those are the ordinances as proposed.
Okay, there was one thing
Oh, yes.
that I noticed, and this is something we agreed on at the last meeting, but in the overlay district, section 341, overlay district established, we were changing the language from all of the zoning districts to C1 and C2 only.
I saw the same thing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And that didn't happen.
Where you at on that?
Right here.
So that sentence would read, the mixed-use overlay district is a mapped zoning district that overlays the C1 and C2 zoning districts along specific ordinance.
Yep. I think everything else was as agreed upon. Any other questions? No. Okay. At this point, I'll open the public hearing. It's 7:35. Would anyone care to speak about any of the proposed changes to the ordinance? If so, please come forward. I see no one coming forward, so I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:36. Or after hearing no public comments or questions. Before I close it, though, I should ask if there are any written communications from the secretary?
Nope, received no written communications.
Okay. 7:36, we're closing the public hearing. Planning Commission discussion and recommendation of approval to, or denial to the City Council. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to send it to City Council with the correction of the C1, C2 zone that we discussed.
Okay,
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, would the Secretary take the roll, please?
Commissioner Turnbull?
Aye.
Commissioner Mativier?
Aye.
Commissioner King?
Aye.
Commissioner Kalidas?
Aye.
Commissioner Steenberg?
Aye.
Chairperson May?
Aye. Okay, motion's approved to recommend council approval of the changes to the ordinance. Any other business? Mr. Ortega, nothing?
No, just in terms of, if I can give just a brief report. In front of you was an example, the 2022 Planning Commission Zoning Board of Appeals application deadlines for review. This is just something that I want to communicate to applicants officially, a drop dead deadline for submittal of applications. These dates are mainly based on the publication requirements for the newspaper, should we require a public hearing for either the board, PC or Zoning Board of Appeals. But it's something that, that way applicants know the deadline itself, and there's no machinations trying to get on an agenda sooner or later, because there are always attempts to move around on attempts to desperately get on an agenda. But I can say that this is working, because we did have one applicant who did need to submit an application, and I told him the deadline was yesterday, and he submitted stuff. And so at this point too, we will also know what the agenda will be for the upcoming meeting, in terms of at least of applications. And to make you aware, 5659 Middlebelt, the Play Mania, they did have an inspection, and in that inspection, it was found that they installed arcade games and a bumper car post. This is something that they originally proposed, and I originally told them, this is something that can happen in the Central Business District, provided you submit for special use approval and receive it from the Planning Commission. When they were told that information, they changed their use statement to say, we're only going to be yoga and dancing for us, and that's it. Is that all you're really going to do? And they said yes. And actually, this is another insight to some changes we've had in the building department or the planning department. Now, when someone does submit an application, they say what their use is. I create what's called a use statement. We're calling it a use statement, so it has the person's name, all their contact information, property address, the zone, their stated use, and the items they're allowed to do in terms of what they're selling or buying or activities going on. Reference in the ordinance, what's approved, any specific requirement or restrictions on that use, and they have to sign it. And at the bottom of it, it says you have to comply with the ordinance. You will not deviate from this use. If you deviate from this use, you will be subject to potential eventually the location of the site if you do not comply with the ordinances. And so at this point in time, in this particular case, they signed a use statement that said karate, yoga, dance. And the building official was able to use that statement when he was talking to them and visited the bumper car arena.
Wow.
Tell them anything and then do exactly what you want.
So it's working, and at least to their credit,
That's very good that you did that.
They understood that they need this approval. So they will not be operating in that facility. They are not allowed to operate until if they receive the approval from the planning commission. So that will be on your February agenda. They submitted a site plan. They did submit a site plan. They did submit floor plans and details. And it will be, we will be reviewing it in February. So,
When we review that, do we review the entire site plan or just their use?
will we review the use? They're providing a site plan just in terms of providing context for the site itself.
Because some of the things they've done to the building haven't actually been taken to well by some people in the Central Business District, I understand.
Yeah, that is correct. But that's something we can discuss. It will be forwarded to the DDA, and they will have an opportunity to provide comments, any comments and recommendations. So we'll have that. I believe they do have a meeting prior to ours, so we should be able to get their comments and concerns for your meeting to consider. But yes, that's kind of things that we can review.
Okay.
What are the, I haven't heard anything. What are the current
Well,
objections?
We should wait till we see what they give us.
Okay.
So this is, I just wanted to show you that we're trying to standardize some of the procedures and trying to do our best to make applicants and people aware. I'm gonna start working with appropriate city staff to update our website to make things a little bit more up to date and a little bit more available for applicants with regards to things like submittal deadlines, fillable forms. We're trying to make fillable forms so they're done, utilizing PDFs and that sort of thing.
Nice.
So the standard things that, it's the 21st century. We should have these.
Excellent transparency
Yeah.
and accountability.
So those kind of things that we like. And then I've had some other communications with applicants trying to do some rezonings, but until I see it after application, I won't bother you with those considerations.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Brian, did you have any other business?
No, no other business.
Okay. The commissioners' comments regarding planning and zoning matters. Diane, did you have anything?
Not tonight.
Mike?
Anything new in the offing that you can talk about?
Trying to think. Building department is very, very active. One other thing we've been dealing with specifically today was the old, I think it was a camera place, Ford in, is it Rain? No, it's, it was adjacent to the vacant Knights of Columbus.
With the apartments on top.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The tenant is still in there, right? One tenant was still left?
Yeah.
Foxhole Music Den,
I don't even know what it was. We didn't know.
or no, High Note Music Den.
Is that-
Yeah, High Note.
Foxhole was down the street.
Well, no, it was a photo den.
Yeah.
Photo den. But I think the people that own Jason Heating, that operate that in the back, were part of the family.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was all one family there.
Okay.
And I think the Jason Heating guy may be the guy who says he was living upstairs.
Yes,
was.
I believe it was, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, the applicants did receive a permit to revise the exterior facade. It was mainly painting. They were supposed to do just a little bit more architectural features, but apparently they don't agree with that. But now they've submitted plans they've done demo inside the building. Now they've submitted plans for construction of new apartments. There'll be apartments on the second floor, commercial space, and apartments on the first floor. And that's legally non-conforming because of the one tenant that was still living in there. Even though there's some issues, I think it's appropriate for that building. It's being referred to.
First floor too?
First floor too.
So they're going to have separate apartments up and down?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe they were going to be like townhouses because it appeared like there was one door for each one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. That's why we needed his floor plans, but today I took a glance at the floor plans, and there's going to be a common hallway for apartments on the second floor, and then the apartments on the first floor they're all one bedroom.
Yeah, they can't be too big.
Well, they average about 700 something square foot.
Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad.
So, but as part of that, we are requiring them to submit a site plan for administrative review. They're not changing the building footprint at all, but they will be required to repave the parking lot and give us a dumpster code. It's going to be required. We'll see how
They were doing
Yeah.
a little bit of work on the facade before the weather got cold, I noticed.
There's that, and then other interest in our vacant churches, but we're going through and seeing, just letting them know what they can do. And then I did, actually, Chairman May did notice, and I definitely noticed too, the Shell station, their lights are not what planning commission approved. They light up the entire intersection. So I went to a site visit with the property owner on the site. He eventually, when I kept showing him your approved site plan, what they were supposed to do, he's proposing to create shields for all those lights, so they'll be shielded and directed downward. Depending on how it looks and if it actually functions correctly, we'll see if that'll be permissible or if we're required to remove the lights and install the poles and fixtures as he was originally approved. And then he did receive his, will be installing a new sign.
Horrible, yeah.
So there's,
I don't know, I don't have much faith in makeshift shields to shield those lights.
that's why I told him to give me one. I didn't want him to spend money on all of them, I want to see one.
If he could bend the arms that the lights are mounted on to make them straight down, that might work with a shield.
No, I agree, that will help. That'll be part of it for the shield. But the thing is, we're not requiring all the lighting down on fixed brackets. Because when they put the lights on angle brackets, even if they angle down, they eventually get angled up over the course of time. And it just shines in homes, it shines in drivers' eyes, and it's just.
Yeah, it shines in all directions around that.
Yeah, it's constant.
Well lit up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Frank?
Nothing more.
I'm all set, thank you.
Randy?
Is there anything going off that old credit union across from Irby's? It's been boarded up for a while.
There have been a couple of different requests to go in there. I thought the last time was that it was going to be utilized for a catering business, but that never came to fruition. And so really nothing has come of it. The property owner has been attempting to lease it to someone, but it's actually a very large sign space.
Can they leave it boarded up like that without placing windows?
That's a good question.
It's really kind of tacky, I guess.
Yeah, technically we don't have any specific requirements or something like that, but that is something that I should consider. So I'll see if I can find any ordinances applicable to that, but I don't believe the building code requires window openings to be windows. If there's not, I think the main issue is just making them secure, so that way that no one can enter it and that sort of thing. But it's definitely not attractive. Technically, it's in the DDA boundary. It's not in the downtown, because it's zone C2, but it is in the DDA boundary. That's a good point. Maybe somebody.
Eric?
Yeah, nothing further.
Okay. Brian, anything else?
No, nothing else.
Do we know when the furniture store's going to be opening?
Relatively soon. They just submitted an application for signs. Signs are too big, but so they have to give me a revised sign application.
Are they going to clean the exterior of the building where the old signs were?
They are going to be required to. They're going to paint that. The
Really?
ephes is going to be painted an orange type color.
Oh,
Orange?
really?
Yeah. Well, hey, it's a muted orange. It doesn't look bad on things. I'm going to be trying to require them to give us the specific details of the color, either some type of specific paint sample, because those paint samples have a specific RGB, red, green, blue value, so that way we can know specifically what the color will look like. We won't be confused by whether the print is actually printed correctly or that sort of thing. So trying to get as much of a true representation of the color as we can get. So the color, I think it's called copper rust or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
My
orange,
terminology for
that's,
color is probably not accurate.
I mean, if we're talking compatibility with other buildings around it, that's not at all compatible.
Right. So I'm trying to get more details from them on that color, because that's part of their sign application. But they want to have black awnings with the rust colored facade color on the top of the building. And it won't be the entire extent of the building, it'll be in the central ephes area. So there's that. And they say they're close to opening.
Okay.
And then in the spring, they will be required to install landscape.
One other building I was thinking about that's still vacant, Orange, the jewelry store and the buildings next to the jewelry store, because they're both two-story buildings with a lot of space. Do they have any?
That I've heard nothing from. I
No?
haven't heard any interest at all.
Maybe we should contact them to see if they have any plans or if they would like some assistance in promoting it, or
Yeah, I mean,
the DDA could maybe assist them.
well, that's what I was about to say, yes, you're right, DDA seems like it's an appropriate task for them. I'm not sure if they, what kind of alternatives they could provide, but yes. And actually, we were just talking about the fact that, in the building department, the second floor, and the fact that those were previously there were offices up there.
Mm-hmm.
But, given the current economic climate and just the way office uses are going, I'm not sure anyone would really want to rent a 300, 400 square foot office in the downtown anymore. When they can just work from home and do everything.
Yeah.
Zoom and everything like that. I think that would be something that probably, I could see that converted to residences up there.
That would be,
And that would be permitted by the ordinance and permitted by, something that would bring activity downtown.
absolutely.
So,
They might not know that,
it's true.
because they're somewhat disconnected from the city now.
We'll see what I can do to reach out to them, but I do believe they still own both properties.
Yeah, I believe so. Okay, well, I don't have anything else. Unless someone else does, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.